Yeah.
I just hit record.
Okay, sounds good. I'm ready to clap when you guys are also.
All right, hold on. Let me get time in. Time de gouver au rebasciatate. What is what they call it in Italy.
I know a little Italian, and that doesn't sound like Italian.
Do you have any Italian in you?
No. Shelley's Italian, though.
What, would you like to?
This is Epic Battle Cry Skirmish 227 Dualshocked.
Hello and welcome to Epic Battle. All right, can we just skip this and get back to playing Titanfall? Do we really have to record this week? I mean, really, we've got better things to do than to record the podcast this week.
Welcome to a new show we're starting here on the website called No Pants Titanfall.
No Pants Titanfall.
I'll give you 3 guesses what the show's about, but you're only going to need 1.
Yeah.
Welcome to No Pants Titanfall. I'm your host, Tony Grice, and with me, as always, not in the same room, though, because that would just be weird, is Brent Adams and Daniel Kaiser. Brent, how you doing this week, man?
What's up? My pilots of punctuality! My titans of tardy!
Nice.
How art thou?
You know...
Why'd you have to do that? That just makes me think that I'm not playing Titanfall right
I know.
That's true.
But, we're going to catch a lot of flack because some people think we should be playing Dark Souls, but I don't think any of us here have been, like, big Dark Souls fans just yet. And I know there's a lot of people also playing Dark Souls. So let's give a shout out to the Demons of Darkness or whatever you want to yell out there, Brent. But, yeah. Congrats to you guys, too.
Yay!
Yeah, it's cute that there's other games. It's adorable. DK, how about yourself? How you doing this week, man?
I'm doing great, TG in 3D. You might as well just call me Mary Jenkins because it's episode 227 of the old Epic Battle Cry. And
no one is going to get that right.
I'm sitting on the stoop ready to talk and ready to chat about this week's gaming stories. There's no place like home, my friends.
Did you used to be like the maid for another family or something? Wasn't that how the story started?
I think so. I don't know.
It was a spinoff, wasn't it?
It was a spinoff. of the Jeffersons, actually.
Yeah.
She was the maid on the Jeffersons, and then she got her own show, 227. Look it up, kids. It was good. There's no place like home. It's actually funny. If you go YouTube the theme song for 227 and then listen to all the lyrics, it could actually be the theme song for Epic Battle Cry. Just try it out. Just try it out sometime.
I would
sync
actually
up the audio and let them
further. I would like to take that a step further and see if anybody out there could actually make some sort of mashup video utilizing the 227 theme song and any Epic Battle Axe media that you may be able to come across in order to accomplish Daniel's vision.
Very nice. All right, well, let's we've got plenty of Titanfall to get back to. Let's go ahead and run through the gauntlet and get this over with.
Got it.
Gauntlet!
All right, guys, we're here in the Gauntlet, and we've got a couple of pretty interesting stories, one of which is probably one of the most anticipated games that we're all looking forward to. Watch Dogs has finally got a release date, and also, a little bit of a surprise, we got a whole laundry list of details about its open-world multiplayer that we're going to get. Brent?
Yes?
You want to run down all that for us?
First thing, we're probably going to need to review the meaning of laundry list, but we'll save that for later. For right now, we know that that Watch Dogs, after originally being set as a launch title for next-gen consoles, and then was delayed, is now officially coming out on May 27th for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC!
Anybody missing from that roster there?
The Wii U, you'll notice, was not among those. It's been pushed back and going to be released sometime later this year. Probably not a good sign.
I think they technically said whenever.
For gamers that are hoping that the Wii U, or were hoping, because you got no fucking hope now, but you might have before, that the Wii U was going to get better third-party support this time around. In an interesting and completely detail-free development, there was also an interesting exchange on Twitter in which a person asked the game director, Jonathan Morin, if there would be open world free roaming multiplayer with up to 8 players. Morin, doing his best Steve Jobs impression, answered yes.
Yes.
So we know that there's going to be multiplayer and presumably, given his singular affirmative, open world, free roaming, up to 8 people. Other than that, we really don't know anything. It seems to me that certainly there is an opportunity here to do some cool co-op stuff, particularly with some of the game's mechanics, the ability to hack, all of the surveillance. I can think of all kinds of cool cat and mouse type stuff that you could do trying to remain hidden in the city from the opposing team. I hope that this is not just capture the flag or 4-on-4 deathmatch, that kind of thing. I really, really hope that the whatever multiplayer they have really suits the tone of the game and the themes of the game about paranoia and surveillance and those kinds of things.
I think he might have been paranoid when he got the question. It's just like, yes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because he was fucking high, but that's it too. Yes. But anyway, what do you guys think? Number one, as I said on the X Factor yesterday, despite the kind of cynicism I want to have about the game, watching the story trailer for the game, which we've probably been playing this whole time, has actually really gotten me reinvigorated and excited all over again for Watch Dogs. It's a game I desperately wanted to play as a launch title, but despite the fact that I've had to wait all this time, I still fucking want to play it. So, are you guys still excited for Watch Dogs, and what do you think about the multiplayer prospects that the game might have?
I think they need to tread lightly because a lot of people, they don't want shoehorned in multiplayer, as we've discussed on this show. I think, like you're saying, it definitely has to fit the premise of the game and offer something unique. And we're seeing games like Titanfall starting to mix up the formula a little bit and bring some new things to the table. Hopefully they'll be able to do the same thing, even if it's simplistic things, that just fit within that universe and make it unique and entertaining. As far as the release date,
like a pie throwing contest.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Or I was going to say something about dogs, but I won't. Anyway, the May 27th being a release date, I think that's great. It would have been rough. I think it's fine. I mean, it could have been.
Story. We haven't even gotten to the first story of the Gauntlet, and I'm already literally about to slip my wrist.
It could have been May 1st. It could have been June 15th. It doesn't matter. At this point, the thing that matters is this. Hype for Watch Dogs has gone down slightly because they missed their initial launch. And this
I'd argue a little more than slightly.
Yeah, I mean, there's been other things that have come out. And if it did hit that launch day with the new consoles, it probably would have been one of the best-selling games of the year. I don't know that they'll be able to maintain that level of interest. Of course, talk to me May 27th when I've got it in my hands. I'm really looking forward to playing this thing. Sure. But I just don't know on the broad level if they'll be able to do it. But hopefully, the delay has improved the game and made it worth waiting for.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I was never hugely looking forward to Watch Dogs. I mean, even when it was at its peak of interest, for everybody, I thought, I was like, okay, it looks cool. There's some cool ideas. I always felt like it felt like it was biting off a lot with some of the concepts that it wanted to do. And I'm not necessarily so sure that that's not why it's kind of taken a little bit longer to come to fruition. And I'm even a little bit worried that the game that will end up coming out won't necessarily maybe live up to some of the expectations that I think people originally had for it. I mean, I'd love to be proved wrong and would have no problem with that. But I don't know. I feel like it's lost a lot of steam since it's, kind of the peak of its interest.
Yeah.
I do think that, it's a little bit interesting too that they kind of, I don't know, I don't feel like it worries me a little bit that it doesn't seem like a lot of, even the story trailer, a lot of details about what the game really will be like. I don't know, it feels a little bit like they maybe kind of came out with a really grandiose plan and may or may not have been able to kind of capitalize on that in the final product. But we'll definitely see, and we'll see sooner than later. I mean, it's definitely
it's not too far off.
Exactly. It's definitely better than saying that you're going back to the drawing board on it. So
later.
Next up, we do have a little bit of news about another really, really hotly anticipated title that unfortunately is being pushed back a little bit, but maybe, as we always hope, maybe it's for the best. The Witcher 3 is not going to be ending up coming out this year. DK, what did CD Projekt Red have to say about the project?
They said it's not coming out this year.
All right, great. All right, so
No, and this is, obviously big RPG fans, like myself, have been looking forward to this. The Witcher has been, a great franchise that a lot of people have enjoyed for its depth, for its mature story, for its kind of immersion and true branching kind of story paths that make your decisions feel important. And CD Projekt Red recognizes what people value in this franchise and have really, really wanted to make The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt the big kind of payoff for both them as developers and for fans of the series. And this past weekend, an open letter released to both fans and shareholders, CD Projekt Red announced that the game is now on target for a launch of February 2015. So we have almost a year to wait before this game will come out. And the letter did talk just about, the scope, the vision for the game, and how, in its final stages, manually fine-tuning all the details of the game and testing time and time again is really what helps, separate good games from great games from being just average good games. And I think that they're trying to do that, although it is disappointing. A lot of people, bought these next-gen consoles. This game is obviously coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. So they bought these consoles with the promise of having experiences like The Witcher 3, and they won't do that this year. But hopefully, as was the case with Watch Dogs, hopefully the delay will pay dividends. But it does, further beg the question that we always ask on the show: what the hell is the point in announcing a release date until you are 100% sure that, until the thing is gold? I really just don't even understand anymore. I think the industry needs to adopt some new standards in terms of here's our target. The word target should be just, everywhere. And targets change, and that's a lot different than having a ship date. I really don't understand. I'm going to get some people on the phone to explain it to me who know more than I do. But anyway, what do you guys think about The Witcher 3 coming out in 2015 as opposed to this year?
On that point, I can't honestly say that I see that much changing. Although it's shifting an entire year because it was coming out in late 2014, it's actually a relatively small delay, probably just a few months. Mm-hmm. So I don't actually think that is all that big a deal, number one. Number two, there's such anticipation for this game and such respect and love for the Witcher series and what CD Projekt Red has done thus far that I can't really see the people who were excited to get that game getting any less excited. And for those people who were still on the fence, it's not like we're not going to have a ton of great shit to play in the bottom half of this year. And having a really, really big RPG that's going to take a lot of time to get through, pushing that back to a spot where there's a little bit less competition for your time, at least as far as other games go, in say February 2015. Also, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I actually think that's probably a good time of year to get into a game that's going to take, tens of hours to complete. So there's all that. The other thing that I want to say, and Daniel, if you would just not listen to this next part for 1 second. I totally agree with what DK is saying. The thing that I think we've all been kind of thinking about and talking about over the last several years that we've been doing the show, we have tried to, I think we've tried to sort of rationalize or put the context of game release dates or frame that in the context of movie release dates, which are set in stone and which, you can count on one hand the number of films that have their release date changed in a given year. Literally, of the thousands of movies that come out every year, you can probably count on one hand the number of films whose release dates change.
And it's never a major one. If anything, the ones that change are usually, the smaller titles.
Yeah, like indie documentaries or something like that. But it just never happens. And that's because the film industry has their process down to a science. Mm-hmm. I think that there was a time that we all thought that gaming will get there eventually. That gaming will reach the point where they've got it down to a science and they know exactly what needs to happen and they can make these very firm release dates. I now no longer think that that's the case. Mm-hmm. I think that the process of making video games is so non-linear and so different than making films that they will probably never be able to they'll probably never be able to schedule the process as precisely as the film industry has been able to get theirs. At least not in my lifetime. Just to put a caveat on it. But I think that making video games is so much more like maybe something like painting, where you can work on a bit over here, and then you can come over here and work on a bit, and then you can finally rough in the foreground that you've been thinking about, and then you go back to that first part and you decide to paint on top of that and do a little bit more. I think that the process of doing video games is so non-linear, and it's so dependent upon all these disparate parts kind of coming together at the last minute that I don't think they're ever going to be able to do things the way that the film industry does, where they have this reliable kind of formula and say, okay, given the kind of film and the length of the script and the number of visual effect shots, it will take us this amount of time to accomplish that. I just don't think it's going to happen. So that being the case, I think that I'm going to advocate for exactly the same thing that Daniel is saying. They just need to stop trying to get people excited about a release date months and months away.
But we don't get excited anymore. That's what I'm saying.
It's a joke now.
It's detrimental to the excitement.
It's detrimental. It does so much more harm than I just don't understand.
There's no reason to do it anymore. But so the point is that what DK is saying is absolutely right. They need to work on the game. They need to release content for the game. They need to say that the game is coming, and we'll give you a release date when it's finished. When the game is like done, gold, and we're ready to start manufacturing discs. Right. As if that's going to be a practice that anybody engages in for too much longer. Yeah. But when we are ready to
release
begin the manufacturing process to release the game, we'll release we'll announce a release date, and we'll start a marketing campaign, and like 6 weeks later we'll come out with the
all
game.
You need is you literally need imagine if we got release dates 4 weeks, 3 weeks before it was available. Why? If that was the norm, we would be a lot better. I don't understand.
Well, the whole thing though is, and to what both of you said, I think you're both right. The problem is, and to what Brent was sort of saying is, I think they've made the choice not to do it that way. It's right. I don't necessarily think that it can't be done that way. I just think that they have made the choice that they prefer that sort of constantly streaming out. They sort of feel, I think a lot of them genuinely feel like, well, that's getting us closer to our audience. Our audience gets to see all these pieces through and that sort of thing. And I think it will come down to right now that it is sort of the formula. I think eventually it might evolve to more of something like we're used to with films, where we don't necessarily see every single tweet about what person is working on the texture for the floor of a level in the game. Every single little tiny detail we don't see the whole time leading up to a game coming out. And I've been saying for so long, it really, really kind of, it definitely is not as exciting to me seeing this stuff spread out over so long a period of time, and frankly seeing so much. I mean, we see so much of a game prior to its release. It really does, I think, take away from a lot of the enjoyment of the game.
I'll solve this. This is a very long gauntlet story, but I'll solve it with a magic bullet here. And the
Titanfall.
The issue is this: they're trying to. The pro of announcing a release date is that you're gambling on getting all the hype associated with it and getting people talking about it. But the detriment associated with having to delay is
it's not
either
worth
equal
it.
To or greater or not worth. You see what I'm saying? Not worth it.
It basically, risking a delay does way more harm than any advantage that you have from announcing your release date way out.
But what I don't understand, that advantage of having the game be talked about is still there. It just doesn't have to be tied to the release date. Talk about your game. Talk about the development. Talk about different systems, processes, updates, characters, all the different things that you want to talk about throughout the course of development, because the market that you want, that is that most meaningful market segment, is really engaged during the ramp up. But when you're ready to go full blast and you want that whole big thing, be fucking sure that the game is coming out, and do it in a whirlwind type of, okay, the game is gold and we're shipping, you guys can buy it in 3 weeks from now. I just don't understand why the industry doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see if they decide to maybe change things. I would actually be interested to know, everyone out there, it really ticks us off. Maybe we're in kind of the minority. Maybe everybody else out there doesn't really care about that. I'm not saying they don't care and they're wrong. I'm saying legitimately, maybe that works for more people than we think that it does. But yeah, I'm definitely on board with both of you on that. All right, so let's move along to our next story,
which is a delay.
Which is a delay.
I'm not so sure this is delay so much as a complete catastrophe.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like this is we're going to talk a little bit about the PlayStation 4 game Drive Club, and I say game with quotation marks because I'm not really sure they've done anything with it at this point. Brent, you want to tell us what they're working on with Drive Club at this point?
I wish I could, but I honestly have no idea. And this sounds less like a delay and more like an 80s comedy starring Rob Lowe and Matthew Broderick about like, oh, we promised we're going to get him there for the wedding. It turns out he's actually dead, and they're trying to figure out a way to just
Drive Club at Bernie's,
to just keep everybody excited and not ruin the special day and get him out up on the stage for the big moment so that at least everybody gets the pictures before the bad news. So Drive Club is quote unquote going back to the driving board. Drive Club is going quote unquote back to the drawing board. This was originally supposed to be a launch title for PlayStation 4, and then it got pushed back. And they said, okay, it's going to be spring 2014 now. Okay, well, here we are, spring 2014, still no release date, and people are starting to get worried. So this is the quote that we've got, and this comes from Scott Rode, who is with Sony. Quote, "What I will say is that it all comes back to that fundamental principle, and that's what we want to build great games. Mm-hmm. And we really don't want to release a game before it's ready. And sometimes this happens in the normal course of business where we think we're on track to deliver what we think is going to be a great game, and then we get closer, we realize that we'd be doing everyone a disservice if we shipped it before it was ready. So, I think that at PlayStation, perhaps more than at other places, we're willing to kind of eat that cost and go back to the drawing board and make sure the game is great before we ship it." And that's what's going on right now with that game. So, for me, somebody who was really, really interested in Drive Club, I'm now basically asking myself whether or not this fucking thing's going to come out or not. If
it's going to be a shooter.
Basically,
yeah. I mean, they don't even really like say like they're going to tweak it or whatever. It's like
it could be
we're going back to
it
may be a driving like a golf driving club simulator or something like
Yeah,
I at this point, I'm very, very concerned, and the fact that he is literally saying we're willing to eat the cost and go back to the drawing board, to me says that this game is in serious trouble. But the other part of that I find rather interesting is the fact that the developer of this game at the release press conference for the PlayStation 4, where they announced the PlayStation 4, he was talking about like we've been trying to make this game for over a decade, and I'm like, if that's true, then how could you have fucked it up this badly?
They didn't say they were trying very hard. I mean, in fairness, they didn't.
Look, I've got all the napkins right here.
Jeez, but what do you guys? I mean, do you guys think that this is just people maybe overreacting to an off-the-cuff comment, or do you think that the situation is as dire as I'm making it out to be?
I don't know that it's as dire as you're making it out to be, but I do think that there is a cause for concern because you have to consider the whole thing. I don't understand what's so hard about a racing game. Like, at its core, it's a racing game. You build cars, you put them on a track, and you go. So, like, going back to the drawing board, what does that mean in a racing game? Like, I'd understand if you were developing something like Thief or something like Titanfall or something. Like a I don't know, whatever. And you're just like, it's kind of a shooter, it's kind of not, or you know, I don't know,
some wild new game mechanic that is
or like this would be a statement. I would imagine somebody like the guys that did Republic, which is cool game, very cool, but like kind of interesting concept. Is they're trying something different, and at some point in development they're like, you know what, we got to go back to the drawing board and get it right. But this is a racing game. Like, I mean, you drive a car around a track. I mean, so I don't. I mean, those are great games, but I don't understand the complexity in what is making things so difficult. So until we understand that, I'm just assuming that he's maybe talking a little bit too much, and that they're literally just trying to fine tune the game more and have better. I don't know, have a better experience, or like maybe the handling's not where it needs to be or something. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm more towards Brent's side on this. Like, I really do think that I honestly, what I really think about Drive Club? I have a feeling that the guys that were working on it, they were like, hey, so you guys are working on that racing game for launch, right? Okay, cool, great. You need to see it? No, just go ahead.
And they took all the money and blew it on hookers and blow.
And then literally, like, they just looked at it like, like for the first time, like, hey, look, we pushed it back, but we got to have it out here pretty soon. Look, I got to see what you got. And they like show it to him, and he's like, oh, good God, Lord, no. There's no way we're putting this out. I have a feeling. I really almost wonder if Drive Club will end up coming out. I have this feeling that this is like such a redo on it that it may end up being something wildly different from what it was originally intended to be, or they may even just say, look, we're going to go back to the drawing board completely and just
It's being co-published by Harmonix because music is your driver.
There's actually I'm going to slip this in under the radar, but there's actually another kind of interesting bit of news, maybe a little bit of sad news coming out of the Sony camp this week, and that is that Jack Tretton, who has been president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment America, will be stepping down at the end of this month. As of March 31st, he and Sony are parting ways. Of course, there's all the obligatory "thank you very much. It's been a great time. This is a mutual thing. Everybody's happy for everybody."
Shocking.
And but it is the end of an era. I mean, Tretton has been the face of Sony for a long time, and we've often commented that during the E3 press conferences, Tretton was always the guy that was the most enjoyable to watch. He was the most comfortable on stage. He obviously knew something about public speaking, and he had enough charisma that he could make those press conferences enjoyable, where other heads of studios could not.
Yeah,
and
he'll be missed.
And of course, it was really kind of interesting to see him in top form this past year, as Sony and Microsoft were literally going head to head, going for each other's jugular, and Tretton at Sony's press conference this past year was had the famous drop the mic moment, which he later fumbled. But anyway, the point is that Tretton is gone. He's leaving Sony, and so we kind of want to recognize that it's the end of an era.
I'm Dualshocked, actually, not just shocked.
But and I agree.
Title.
It's definitely a sad day, and I think a lot of people out there are kind of wondering, like, hey, PlayStation actually seems to be on a real upswing as of late, and kind of almost wondering the timing of this, like why would he leave at this point in time? The fact that he greenlit Drive Club, I don't want to say that, but I mean, he was running the company when that game was greenlit. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, right. It's all his fault.
All right, last but not least,
promise,
Jesus, is the announcement of Costume Quest 2.
Yeah.
For the very popular sequel to Costume Quest. DK, you want to tell us what details we got about it?
Double Fine Productions recently announced Costume Quest 2 is coming our way this Halloween. It'll be on PC and quote-unquote consoles. I had a call with Tim Schafer this past week to discuss this, and that's what he said. I said, what consoles? He said, quote-unquote consoles. I said, I don't know what that means, although I think I know what that means. But anyway...
Better than him just saying, yes.
Yes.
True.
But anyway, Double Fine's triumphant return to Auburn Pines is taking place with Ren and Reynold. It's going to take place during Halloween, just like the original game, and there's going to be more of the crazy costumes and more of everything that was in the original game. Now, they got the rights back to Costume Quest after, which had belonged to THQ, and then THQ folded, and then they went to get them back. They got them back, and now it's being published by Midnight City. So Midnight City, which is run by one of my buddies at IGN, Casey Lynch. You guys know Casey Lynch? He's got that big ass beard.
Yeah,
totally cool guy. So they're publishing this. So it's a happy story of everyone coming together with candy, which usually ends bad, but in this case, I think it's good. So anyway, the game is coming out later this year, and if you like the first one, you should have absolutely no reason to hesitate on picking this one up. What do you guys think?
I think it's a fucking win-win. I mean, it's Costume Quest, it's Double Fine. The video for this too, I think that this is absolutely one of the best announcement trailers that to consider the fact that it has no gameplay whatsoever, it's just kind of like a little comedic short shot, like in the offices with the guys at Double Fine in Midnight City. It's fucking hilarious. It's really funny, but it also does, I think, a great job of building that anticipation and everything. Like by the time you get to the end, you're like, oh my god, it's gonna be Costume Quest 2, and yeah, it's Costume Quest 2. It's really, I mean, it's cool. What's not to love?
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm totally with you there. It's the first one was a ton of fun, and I think it's very cool. This is one of those happy stories where, unfortunately, THQ, I think, it took bit off a lot more than it could chew with a lot of the, kind of acquisitions it made over the years, and you were almost a little worried that some of the series that kind of it had control over may never see the light of day again, and this is definitely good news.
And speaking of Midnight City, real fast, I will also mention, since we're tacking on stories left and right to the gauntlet this week, the Gone Home, Fulbright's Gone Home, which was released on PC last year, is now coming to consoles this year, courtesy of Midnight City as well. So not only do they have Costume Quest 2, but they now have Midnight City coming, Gone Home coming to consoles, which I missed it on the PC, and I'm actually very much looking forward to playing it on the consoles. Did either of you guys play Gone Home?
I did not.
Okay.
No,
Brent?
I haven't yet. I've got it on my wish list. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I've listened to Lauren talk about it in non-spoiler terms. It sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But the answer is no.
So maybe on console?
Yeah. No, I'd play it on PC first.
Okay.
Brick can't just go along with it. He's like, no.
Absolutely not.
No.
I'm just trying to be honest. I'll
your...
play it on fucking PC where it's better.
All right, guys, we are finally in the main topic, and we want to talk a little bit. There's been a lot. We talked a little bit about the closing of Irrational Studios, and we've heard the news here recently that Sony Santa Monica has also had some layoffs, and we want to just talk a little bit about the state of the gaming industry in terms of how these layoffs and these closures and things like that, how it's affecting the business as a whole. DK, you want to kind of take us down through some of the thoughts? I know Pactor had talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, Pack Attack had talked a little bit about this on Thanks for Playing, the most recent show from GameTrailers, and we wanted to kind of follow up to discuss a very important topic, I think, is something going on in our industry, and that is, we do hear all the time about layoffs. We do hear about studios closing. In the case of Irrational, like you mentioned, Sony Santa Monica's new IP is getting canned, and every so often we hear about that, and every time we hear about these transactions, there's always faces and real people associated with these products. But our industry, more so than most, doesn't really, isn't really fond, in my opinion, of attaching the people to the product, and for the reasons that one Mr. Michael Pachter mentioned. He talks about games like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty and things that are just these giant brands that do have some recognizable names attached, but I mean there's 500 people working on these franchises at any given point, and it's like better for the brand and better for the consumer if they just don't know, so that when XYZ leaves, when this person leaves the company, it doesn't have a detrimental impact on the game. And the reason why you're saying this is because he was saying that he thinks that, Pachter was saying that he thinks that the Bioshock franchise has now kind of had the nail in the coffin, because, with Ken Levine leaving, then that means that a lot of fans so closely tie his work to that game that it'll be hard to see the game without him. So I definitely see that argument. But as somebody who's been covering this industry for a decade now, I've never really understood why. I guess I understand from a business standpoint, but I've never understood why the film industry and the music industries and all these people go out of their way to talk about the people involved in the projects. The power belongs largely to the directors, to the actors, to the artists, to the musicians. And when they work on projects, it is of note within that. But you, as much as you would see,
and it's a point you can market the product on.
Yes, and it's a point that you market. So it is a selling point. Tom Cruise stars in XYZ. Well,
that's
maybe
right.
not Tom Cruise.
I don't go see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but in fairness, do you hear about the grip that worked on
that's
the latest
exactly
Tom
right.
Cruise movie? And that's what I think is more
Well, yeah, but we're not
it's
talking.
exactly
We're talking about
analogous in that sense.
Yeah, but you don't. But there are certain people, and that's what I've been saying is there are once if you're somebody like Ken Levine or somebody like Ray Mazeika or Greg Zeschuk, and you're responsible for creating these major universes, and guys like Casey Hudson at BioWare and other stuff too. Some people do get recognition, but it's never attached to the product. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for our industry? Because it's certainly it keeps the brand intact, but are more recycled versions of the brand
one or the other? I mean, it's always going to be different.
Yeah, but we do have one or the other in this day and age. You never really see a person's name on a box for a game that says, Ken Levine presents BioShock, or in the same way that you would be like, or David Cage's Beyond. Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you have to remember that, like in the film industry, that's a product of the DGA. That's a Directors Guild thing. That the unions, especially the writers' union and the directors' union, they really like being able to kind of assign authorship of a film to an artist, because they think that somehow that is desirable. That it's like only one person wrote this film. Like it is a film born from the mind of a very talented screenwriter, and that screenwriter's name is X. Even though the script's been through 10 different rewrites, and there's all these ghostwriters who are never going to get credit for it that have shaped that that coming along. And as Tony points out, there's a lot of talented people on the crew that are contributing to it as well. So I see the point that Pachter is making. I get the argument, and I'm not saying that there's not some logic in it, but at the same time, from a practical standpoint, it does make a difference in purchasing decisions when somebody who's got a really good track record, who's got great ideas that you've seen executed well in other games you've played, when they're attached to a new project. That thing does matter to me as a gamer. I take notice when somebody jumps ship from one studio to another and says, I've got this new game I'm going to start working on. It's like, well, I really like that last game they did. Maybe I should check out this new one. Right. But at the same time, I don't think that anything matters as much as results. The fact that Batman Arkham Origins, as an example, was done by Warner Brothers Montreal instead of Rocksteady worried a lot of people. And if they had executed that game as solidly as even Arkham City, excuse me, as even Arkham Asylum, not even Arkham City, but if they had just been able to execute that game well without the myriad of technical problems that it had and still has, nobody would care on this side of it whether or not it was Rocksteady or not. They would only care that they got a great game. As it turns out, it was not exactly a technically it was not a technically tuned game. Now, in terms of the content, the story, etc., I love it. It actually might be my favorite of the three that's come out so far in terms of the narrative. But the technical execution really, really kills it. And so maybe that reinforces that feeling that you want experience and success behind the game that you're going to buy, and the best way to get that is to find people that have succeeded in other games that they've worked on. So I kind of get what he's saying, but honestly, I don't think that practically it's ever going to come to that. I think that people are always going to want to know who worked on the game, and they're always going to use it as a barometer in whether or not to get excited or pre-order or buy something that's coming down the pipe.
I don't even know that I don't know that I even agree with that fully, because I mean, let's be honest. You look at something like look at the Call of Duty franchise. Look how popular that is, and it's made by like 3 or 4 different studios, and those studios change, who's at the head of them like constantly over time. It's the franchise is what I think brings people back. Now, are there games out there where people, especially a new IP maybe that comes from someone that you liked their work before? Maybe, but I don't know. I think it's one of those things where
you can't deny that Titanfall. You can't deny that a lot of the anticipation with Titanfall is the fact that it's Respawn Entertainment and it's the guys who did Modern Warfare 2. You can't deny that.
Sure.
That a lot of the
I can't deny that
game
does that way. My whole point is it's not a blank statement that goes across all titles.
No,
my whole point is
I think that's fair.
My whole point is that yes, you have games like that where people do really know the cloth it's cut from, and they're like, okay, well, hey, these guys, technically this company, Respawn, hasn't done anything before, but I know what they worked on before, and I really liked it, so I'm going to give this a shot. But I also think that if you didn't even know who they were at all, and you saw the trailer for Titanfall, it would be just as popular. Does that kind of make sense?
No,
Even though I think that they are a big...
But and it's like I said, again, the end result trumps all. No matter who worked on what they did before, if the game comes out and it's awesome, that's the only thing that ultimately will really matter in the long run.
Exactly, and I think that goes to the point of having names attached to them. I mean, let's be honest with you. There's no one person that has full control over any of these projects, whether we're talking about movies or games,
right,
or music. I mean, they're collaborative efforts between lots and lots of different people, and each one of those people has a different piece of the pie in terms of the overall look and feel of the game. I don't necessarily think that it's. I think you're going to see some games that'll come out that'll really play upon who was working on them, and then I think, frankly, a lot of them will come out and they'll be like, oh, hey, that's a new X property game. It's gonna do well or be popular, and no one's really gonna care who worked on it necessarily. I'm not saying don't care, don't give a shit. I'm saying that's not what they're buying it for. They're buying it let's take it back to the movies for a second. Michael Bay puts his name on top of every movie he does, and I'm pretty sure it's a health and safety thing. He's forced to warn people about that. But he puts it on there because they think that's a huge selling point. Let's be honest, people go see Transformers because it's fucking giant robots fighting each other.
Right.
They like Transformers. I don't think most of them go I don't really like Transformers at all, but it's another Michael Bay film, so I'm definitely going to go see it.
But
I think it really, different properties are differently weighted by who's behind them.
Right.
I totally agree. I agree with everything you guys have said, but one thing I've been trying to do I've not had success being able to do it because of, just the entities that I'm tied to not really allowing me to do it. But the bottom line is, to me, if you could walk out on the street and say, who's Steven Spielberg? Who's Stephen King? Who's Will Ferrell? Who are all these people in these upcoming books or movies or whatever, Michael Bay. But then if you people will tell you, and those guys are mainstream. Why is that the case for those industries? And if you walk out on the street, if I run up to Best Buy right now up the street and say to some people, who's Shigeru Miyamoto, a lot of people aren't going to know, because our industry does a piss poor job of turning the talent, the people behind the projects, into making them the forefront of these things. And I do think that it's not across the board, but we can do a much better job, especially at a certain level of track record and success, where some of those names I think should be household names. I mean, how many people have played Nintendo games? And the amount of people who don't know who Shigeru Miyamoto is,
or Kenji Inafune,
exactly. That's our fault as an industry, and that's something I would like to see us do better. Despite the problem is that the brand's ability to continue to succeed and make money. The Call of Duty thing, yes, it's successful because that is the best business decision. But is it the best thing for the they're going to keep churning out sequels year after year after year and milk it because they don't have to worry about whether or not they lose this guy or that guy. But when there's a person associated with it, there's a little more accountability as well. So I don't know. It should be interesting to see how it evolves, and even if it does, because it's hard to, get these companies to change when they're seeing a payday. You know what I'm talking about?
All right, guys. Well, we are coming up near the end of this week's Skirmish, but first we have our Battle Cries of the Week, and I'm going to start off with my Battle Cry, which is to pass my battle cry because I want to get to playing Titanfall. What's your...
So in a way, your battle cry is for Titanfall.
It is, it's for Titanfall. Sure, great. All right, let's move on. So, Brent, what's your battle cry of the week?
My battle cry this week goes out to Joystick, which has been a gaming news site that I've followed for a very long time and always enjoyed them. And of course, one of the Axe Lord alumni, Jess Conant, is writing over there now, and we're all very happy about that. But one thing that I am very happy about specific to Joystick is that they have started with Titanfall, so this actually is kind of a Titanfall battle cry in a sense.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
with
okay.
Titanfall, Joystick is starting a new kind of review that they call State of Service, and this is something that we have talked about on this show. It's something that Laura and I have talked about ad nauseum, mostly due to Battlefield 4. But this State of Service is going to be a companion rating to their normal game reviews. And the way that it's going to work and what it's going to do is it's going to be a barometer for how well the online portion of a game functions. And it's going to be a relatively simple thing. It's just going to be like a red, yellow, or green rating. And that's going to be attached to the game's score, and this State of Service ranking is going to be updated multiple times throughout the first 30 days of a game's launch. So as an example, with Titanfall, when the game launches, they're going to look on launch day and see how things are working. They'll do a rating. They'll update it the next day because they know that there's a lot of tweaking and stuff that's going to happen that first week. And then I think maybe again the third day they're going to update it again. Then at the end of the week they'll update it and see where things are at. So if there's problems that have been addressed, maybe it'll go from red to yellow or yellow to green. And then they'll continue to update it each week for the first month, and then the score will stand as it is at the end of 30 days, and that is what kind of the final ranking will be. And as I said, they're going to attach.
Well, that's not fair to games like Battlefield, who finally get their shit together like 6 months later, though.
Well, but that's the whole point. Is that they feel like 30 days is enough time. That's a reasonable amount of time to work out any kinks. If it takes longer than that, then it probably says something about the game that it took longer than 30 days. For it to get those problems sorted. So, I think that this is a great practice. I'm glad to see that Joystick is doing it, and that they are acknowledging that the reason that they feel they need to do this is because, on the one hand, they do want to honestly evaluate the game, but more often than not, they're doing review copies. They're playing, especially online games, under really good conditions before the servers are inundated with the millions of players that are going to be joining the game on launch day. Yeah. So the ranking the content of the game is a separate thing from how well the service functions. Titanfall is the first title they're going to be doing. Titanfall is the first game they're going to be doing this with. But they'll be doing it for any game who has a substantial chunk of gameplay that is based in some kind of online component. They'll be doing this for games moving forward, and I just want to applaud them for doing so. I think it's a great idea, and I think that it's something that could stand to become an industry practice that everybody that does reviews should take a look at doing something like this, because I think it's the only way to really fairly serve consumers who are looking to you to figure out whether or not they're going to pay their hard-earned cash for these titles.
Yes, I totally agree. We've been talking about this for a long time. On GT, sometimes there's launch reports, and the fact of the matter is that the industry's changed. So we, the people who cover the industry, need to change with it. I mean, if guidelines for cars, or if cars added different components, or the way that they functionally deliver what they promise, the people who are responsible for broadcasting them or getting word out about them have to kind of ebb and flow and adapt, because these games do get reviewed in very closed environments where everything is set up and perfect, and a lot of times we all know that's not the state, especially the more entangled we become with all these different components of technology that rely on everything working in sequence for the experience to come out. So I applaud them as well, and I do think that most outlets will have some form of this very soon if they haven't already started instituting it.
Yep, I think it's a great idea. DK, what's your battle cry?
My battle cry this week, TG in 3D, goes out to Amy Hennig, formerly now of Naughty Dog. She has left Naughty Dog. The news broke this past week. Obviously, she is one of the main writers on the Uncharted series. I've known Amy for years, and actually it was very funny because the very first time I met her, she's like, "I'll tell you about our new game. It's called Uncharted," and we were, and it was just so cool. And like, to be honest, like in the as long as I've been doing this, covering this franchise from the very beginning has been like something really fun to see it go from like, hey, let's reveal this, to being like, I mean, this is like Sony's big boy. You know, this is right there with God of War. And she has been integral in that entire process. She's been with Naughty Dog for 10 years. She's moving on. Initially, the word came out with a little bit of a misreporting that she was kind of forced out. That wasn't the case. Bruce Straley and Neil Druckmann both, clarified that this was, not her, leaving because of them or whatever, although they are now, obviously going to take the lead on all things Uncharted, and her departure doesn't impact Uncharted 4 at all on the PlayStation 4. But I just wanted to use my battle cry to wish her the best. She's a great person, very talented, and I hope that she lands in a good spot where her talents could be put to use, and I look forward to finding out what she's working on next, if indeed she is working on something in the gaming industry. But despite all that, I just wish her the best, and that's my battle cry.
Hear, hear.
Very cool. Who knows? Maybe, like you say, maybe it wouldn't even be gaming. Maybe it's big screen or something.
Yeah, maybe.
I got the opportunity to talk to her very briefly when we were going from we were going from E3. We were going from the convention center to the Sony presser. She was on the bus with us, and I just walked over and introduced myself and talked to her for a few minutes. And she was very pleasant and
she's cool
and very down to earth.
She only threw one drink in your face.
Which, I mean, by my standards, that's
which is I know seriously
that's practically a sign of love. So.
All right, well, and Brent, I believe you also have our member battle cry.
I certainly do, and this week it comes from Mutton Chops.
Yeah!
And Chops has this to say: amidst all the media attention being poured upon the new generation of consoles, I would like to send a battle cry back towards the aging PlayStation 3. There has never been a better time to own a PS3, thanks in large part to the excellent service that is PlayStation Plus. I finally bit the bullet and purchased a PS Plus membership as a Christmas gift to myself. It is a gift that has paid off in spades. Since January, I have gotten Borderlands 2, BioShock Infinite, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, XCOM Enemy Unknown, Payday 2, Metro Last Light, and a slew of smaller titles along with Tomb Raider, which has been announced for March, all at no additional cost to the price of membership. Instant Game Collection is no exaggeration. PS Plus paid for itself instantly. I believe this is a conscious effort on Sony's part to keep their fan base happy, given the content drought associated with the launch of a new console, and it's working. I have more than enough games to keep me busy on my trusty old PlayStation 3 until such time as that first must-have game comes out for PlayStation 4. So here's to many, many more hours of gaming on the last-gen PS3. And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I got my PlayStation Plus membership for the first time when I got my PlayStation 4, and I get the emails, I check the store, I see all of the titles that go free each month as part of that PlayStation Plus membership, and it astonishes me. It astonishes me the quality of the games, and I mean really, really popular, really, really high-profile good games that are available to free for anybody that's got that console. I agree with him. I think that Sony has done a phenomenal job turning PS Plus into a really, really worthwhile service.
Yeah, you're almost like, are you sure? I mean, I could download Tomb Raider now?
It's almost like
you could stop now. Like, I've gotten my money's worth, but keep going.
Well, and I think it's a great thing to point out that even when these, everybody gets all excited about the new consoles, but realistically, bang for your buck, it's absolutely better to pick up a PS3 or an Xbox 360. I mean, if you haven't already been picking up all the titles that that are out, if you just if you've been out of it entirely and wanted to pick up something now, you will get so much because they're cheaper in most cases. You can get them, great deals. And I mean, there's just some great quality titles.
Yes.
And frankly, there's still, like even some of these newer games. I mean, even though maybe, Ground Zeroes, if you want it, isn't maybe the it's on the next gen platforms as well. You can still get the core experience, on the old generation. So
sure,
very cool.
And it comes from Mutton Chops. What a great name!
Yeah, which is always good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, well, that is going to end this skirmish. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this week, and please join us once again next week when we'll be mercilessly cleaving the fat from the gaming stories of the day. For Brent and for Daniel, I'm your host, Tony Grice. Remember, cry havoc and...
Titanfall! Prepare for Titanfall. Let's go right now.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
What are you always preparing for? Just go!
All right, bye. Bye.
We should play.
Yes, we should. Did you start streaming this morning?
No, I couldn't because it wouldn't let me do it. it was just like it wouldn't connect. I was like, I'll just play a round to warm up so that like if I start streaming, I'm like not, ice cold. And then I was like, I started trying to stream and I'm like, it's not working. Let me play another round.
I'll just play another game.
And I'd wash and repeat for like 2 hours.